back to a new lens. Just a heads up, today's topic is probably going to be a little tough for some people, so just a little warning right away. Today we're just going to talk about seemingly something that is so common these days, which is depression, and just how easy it is to fall into such a hole, and why just so many people are just this way, I don't know, it just feels everywhere you go. Obviously I can't speak for outside of my experience, but even just at a lot of my work sites in more recent years, like post COVID, so many people just seem to not have been able to recover very well. And I just have a feeling it has to do with social interaction and job market. I'm not really sure what else it could be. Um, I just have a feeling for most people, those are probably the two biggest things. Is just the inability to reconstruct one's social life after the shutdowns and the forced shutdowns and the continuous encouragement to stay indoors and not go outside, and this decline from nature in general, right? Like just spending more time online, right? Like it's like we're actively being discouraged from doing the things that would make us happier and healthier, which would be like getting sunlight and vitamins and working out and socializing with friends. And it just seems more and more that it's whether it's we're being encouraged to do it or whether we created these bad habits on our own to find these dopamine hits through engaging content, not just engaging, but entertainment and bright lights and sounds and loud people and whatever, whatever tickles your fancy, as they say. Um, and just the other half of it being jobs and stuff, right? Which is also manufactured, where it's hard to find a job. The jobs you find are generally continuously worse pay. Like it's a race to the bottom. Like nobody is necessarily doing well. At my most recent position, there was, I found out, and you have to, for some context, you need a degree for this job. Like you need a STEM degree, and it does not pay very well for full time people, to the point where some of them are on Section 8 housing. And it's dude, these people spent a significant amount of time and money to, learn some pretty deep science into care for animals, and and for whatever reason, it's how, as a company, are you comfortable with allowing some of your employees who are the lifeblood of the company to be on Section 8 housing? And it's you look around at the team and it's just everybody's depressed, everybody's disenchanted. And as much as yeah, these people are putting in work and putting in hours, and sure they're getting by, but they're not enjoying it. It's whatever love for the craft and the passion that they had is gone. It's just they're just walking around hella depressed. And can you blame them? It's they can barely live. like you know, it's chasing a passion can only go so far. When you can't support yourself and you're trying to improve your life, improve your situation, move on to different chapters. Significant amount of these people are getting engaged and getting married, and it's the only reason they're out in their own houses or apartments for some of them is because they have a spouse who makes a lot of money. And it's if they didn't have that, I'm sure they would be more depressed as well, because it's how are you, going to become, people who have a decade plus of experience at this point, who are still getting paid not much more than minimum wage? It's just not livable, and it sucks, right? And there's no job security. So it's there's no loyalty to it either. So like you can try as hard as you want and like put your blood and sweat and tears into something and you know barely have enough to get by, like and just get like fired at the end of the day anyways. So like it's not a shock that like a lot of these people are like, damn, like what's even the point? Like, yeah, I got it and I'm trying my best, but you can only do so much, right? Like you gotta like do some damage control, and unfortunately, it feels like I don't know, but right, it's like you can only do so much to fix yourself every single day to like get over depression, and like you should be working on it every day, right? Like there are things you can do like on the social side to um at least create a support group and a friend group who you can talk to and like work on yourself in that regard to find people you trust and you know rise together, right? Like create a community and help each other, and that is like a manageable and doable thing for anyone. And it's like that's like one big aspect, but right, it's like for some people, and it's like on every single level of the market, like you can be rich too, right? Like even people who are not necessarily forced to work get depressed, and it's like you have all the money in the world, you have women and whatever, which is sort of was talked about in Way of the Peaceful Warrior to relate this back to a previous episode where it's like, what sort of values are you placing on yourself and like how much are you, you know, relating these things, like these more like material things to your personality and like right like how much of having a specific position, right, how much of that borrowed power that isn't internal, that doesn't come from you, like how much are you putting on that, like because at the end of the day it is borrowed, like you're gonna lose it whether you like it or not. So it's you got to be careful, right? You got to be careful with like putting so much emphasis on those types of things because you can like get yourself stuck in such a hole, right? Like if you're not rich and famous, or if you aren't in even the field that you want to be working in, if you're not making as much money as you want to be making, like all these are material things, like these are positions and titles and right, like it's more like your ego wants it rather than right the uh super ego, right, or the id. I don't remember which way is which. uh right, but that internal like disillusionment that you are like searching for, right? So to uh not destroy the ego but sort of get over the ego and like past it, just like to see past your this false like negative self-talk that you have because you're not who you want to be or whatever, when it's all just like kind of bullshit anyways. And it's easy to like say that to yourself, but you gotta make it a habit to where like you're not doing that. Like you can't just get addicted to it because it's easy to get addicted to it. uh right, like people love that. People love being victim to their own situation because it's easy to be comfortable and content in something that is bad but like bearable than like putting in work and actually getting yourself out of a place, right? And it's all random. You never know what comes next. Life's challenges are confusing and no one can control it, and but it is like life is 90% what you do with it and only 10% with what actually happens to you, right? Like the whole manifestation and like positive vibes and like actually getting out there and like right working out and like doing all these other things, like the self discipline and self dedication that you have should eventually translate into these other aspects of your life. um it's important to think out of the box and get new perspectives at times, right? Like maybe step out of your field for a little bit and explore different options, or go to social events that you normally don't go to, right? Like there are ways there are ways to get there, and it's not an overnight thing by any means at any point in time. um, so like it's so easy to get stuck, and for a long, long time too. And that's like where it really hurts, right? Because it's like you get into a hole, you get this negative feedback loop. You just keep going down and down and down and down, and that turnaround time isn't linear and it isn't fast. Like you still like go down and up and down and up, and like eventually like you're making your way back. But a creation of a positive feedback loop happens. you know it takes a little bit. In the grand scheme of things, it's not that long, but like it does take time and effort to like establish something like that. And the longer you are, let's say in a hole and depressed, the longer it's going to take to get out. And that's just a fact. um, so if anyone out there is thinking about harming themselves, please call 988 if you're in the United States. And I definitely encourage you to look up your local emergency contact for self deprecation and those unaliving thoughts. Uh, and obviously, stay safe out there. You are far more than what anybody says to you, or whatever any title you have is. Um, keep working on what you're working on. Your passion and dedication to the projects that you take on will come to fruition at some point. Right? Things can't stay bad forever. You just gotta keep pushing forward, keep trying hard every day, and yeah, just keep loving, just keep putting out that positive energy, and you know, eventually it will come back to you. Like I know, the numbness and emptiness can be debilitating and defeating, right? Because you show up and put a smile on your face, but you're empty inside, and you just hide it so well. But maybe it's not the best thing to be doing anymore. You don't have to be so tough and to pretend all the time. You just gotta like take those steps, man. Just small steps, right? Just one foot in front of the other. Soon you'll be there. I'm Wild Will. This has been A New Lens. If you'd like to see more content, please subscribe. I'll see you next time.